Well, thanks for joining me. I tell you, as I thought about it more, and Bridget, I just kind of assumed we wanted Matt's better half, but as I thought about it more, um, I thought, wow, I'm asking more than I thought, and I so appreciate you both being willing to do this, and kind of what we'd like to accomplish with it is a number of things, of course, just for you guys to share a little bit about what's going on in your lives, that type of thing. But even during these times, I think in just the bit I've gotten to know both of you, I think that this is a great opportunity for both of you to, because there's such a depth of spirituality in both of your lives, to just kind of share that for people really to know more about what God's doing on the inside of you in this process. And,
Sure.
and just in your life. And so we'll kind of, and this is new for me, we're working on, I tell you, it is kind of creepy. All the things, I mean, you guys better be on your best behavior. All the things I learned about looking at your previous interviews online, the picture. But it was really interesting. Thankfully, I'll say this, that the more I read about both of you, and of course, primarily your situation, Matt, with being a hockey player, you guys are incredible people and have lived life very well to this point, and of course, very confident you will continue to. And so just a couple of the facts about Matt's hockey career. I tell you, I got more impressed. I think I mentioned that to you on the phone, Matt, that now I couldn't tell, depend on which article I read, that you played the second or third most games of anybody from America. Which one is it?
Second.
Which it is. Second.
That's a good one. She's for the husband. And that in itself, and then they just talked about, your commitment really from college on to taking care of yourself physically and just making it a big deal. I tell you, one of the things I thought was interesting, if I didn't know better, and I don't know hockey that well, it sounds like people didn't even think you could skate at all. But tell me just a little bit about that process. I mean, obviously, your record and your accomplishments in the NHL are incredible. But what was this thing about skating? What was, it says that some of your scouting reports in high school.
Yeah, it was one of those things. I always I was a pretty good player growing up, and for me, like, as I started to climb the levels into high school and had some success in high school and was looking to go to college, and at that time I was getting scouted to be drafted into the NHL, and probably the biggest thing separating me from being like a top first round draft pick to where I eventually went into the second round was my skating. Like, I wasn't a super strong skater. It didn't come natural to me. I was never really very quick. So that was one of those things that I guess as I got into college, high school too, it was something I was aware of. I was always really motivated to get to the next level. So for me, it was more a matter of knowing that was sort of my weakness in my game, that if I could take that to the next level, then I had a chance to be something pretty good. And I think, that was one thing that, like, my mom and dad put into all of us boys at a young age and my sister too, is a work ethic, and taught us how to work. And, so just kind of decided that was something I was going to work at and try to take that from a weakness into a strength.
Yeah. So 3 Stanley Cup titles, not being a real avid hockey fan, but being a sports fan, that is unbelievable. That's like, 3 gold medals. That's 3 Super Bowls, 3 World Series. Tell me a little bit about, I mean, that's unheard of really for really any athlete to win 3 of any world titles.
Yeah. It's I mean, I'm really proud to have been a part of it. I mean, it's pretty special to go through it, but it's a lot about being in the right place at the right time too. I mean, I started my career out and I played 10 years, I think, with only 1 playoff round under my belt.
Yeah.
And then the next one was in Carolina when we won our first cup, and just
it all happened after he got married.
Everything good happened. Sure. I get that.
Nothing was going on before then.
Well, I did notice this, Matt, that, being a lifelong Minnesota fan, you had to get out of Minnesota to win a Stanley Cup.
Funny. Yeah. It was funny how it all came together though. We went to Carolina, and obviously Bridge being the most important part of the whole thing. No, it was good. It was funny though, like to talk about, like it was just a matter of being in the right place at the right time. And it was funny because, like going through 10 years of my career, I never got even a taste of the playoffs. I got one quick round and that was it. And then we got to Carolina and we had a team that everybody picked to finish last in the whole NHL that year. And it was just the coolest experience. Yeah, we had so much fun and just went on like this magical ride and ended up winning the cup. And then from there, it just kind of took off.
Wow, that is it. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your history. You both grew up in Moorhead. How did you guys meet? Give me a little backdrop there.
Well, we met at church. Basically, we went to the same. We went to St. Joe's, a Catholic church here in town. Went to school together. We moved to town when I was in 4th grade.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We didn't know it, but we lived probably like less than 8 blocks apart when we were younger. Okay. We didn't know it at the time, but we realized we were both at Food and Fuel getting candy and gum pretty much every day at the same time.
Oh, there's never any gum left after
No, but then we had chemistry class together in high school, and I think that was kind of...
Is that where the chemistry began?
Yep.
Apparently, making candy canes.
Canes.
Yeah, right?
So Bridget, now enough about Matt's career. Tell me about your athletic career, because the rumor around Clay County is you were a better athlete than Matt.
She probably was.
Yeah. I could squat more than him in high school.
Ooh. Yeah. So that's why you were working so hard, Matt.
Which probably explains why I wasn't a very good skater, right?
But I just played basketball and I loved it. I just fell in love with the game at like 5th grade, and I don't know, it taught me so much, and I worked so hard, and I was always short, and so I was trying to overcome being the shortest one. So I was maybe the quickest one a lot of times because I had to work at, being good at something.
You bet.
So
then you went on to play college basketball?
Yep, at Mankato State.
Okay. So now I find it interesting. It's probably normal, but how come you didn't steer your boys to playing basketball?
Well, you've seen them jump. If you've seen them jump, there's just not even a question,
No, we play though. We go play like at the park, and it's just kind of, hockey was in their blood more than I think anything. So,
well, I've gotten a chance with my kids to get to know your boys a little bit, and when we've gathered together, it's kind of like, if it isn't hockey, it isn't important.
Yeah, there's a little of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
They weren't too fond of the suggestion, let's play basketball. It was like, well, no, let's use the basketball courts for a hockey.
Yeah, you grow up in a locker room that's kind of like, they grew up in the locker room, all these NHL locker rooms, all the different places we've been and moved around. And so it's fun that they have grabbed onto it and loved it, because it's really the only thing, that I could teach them. I don't know how to build a fort or a tree house or whatever. That's not my area of expertise, although you could maybe. But it's not, so I'm happy. It's always been fun to be able to share that with them, because it's a love that we all share. And Bridgie has learned to love the game too, as much as you probably used to hate it.
And I love it.
Yeah.
It's
and
so fun.
There's a lot of similarities, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a lot like basketball in a lot of ways.
Right. So you have 3 boys. Tell us about your boys.
Well, I think the oldest one is the typical oldest, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm.
The most kind of like Matt. I feel like he's responsible, and he's got a good heart, and I don't know. He's a really good kid. Yeah,
he's a good kid. He's a good older brother. He's so he's in 7th grade right now. And he's a pretty motivated kid, and it's been really fun to watch him grow up here. And like, one of the things we've asked a lot of the boys with all the moving around we've done, part of my career has meant that we've lived in a lot of different cities. And probably for the oldest one, it's the hardest, right? He's a junior high kid now, and he's moved around. This is his first year being home. So he just is a really mature kid, and it's pretty fun to see how he's probably more grounded in his faith than maybe either one of us. It's pretty impressive to see. And he's just a real grounded, real intelligent, just a good kid, which it's nice to have a leader in your house that sets the tone for the other two, because they both have their little streaks of whatever it is. I don't know. Yeah, they're very competitive, 2 younger ones. and they're just
it's almost like the two younger ones, like they're so hyper focused into hockey that where the older one is able to kind of see the big picture of life, where the other two are just like right now this is the only thing that they want to do. And so I don't know, I'm sure it'll change for them, but
I think it's part of that growing and maturing process, I think is natural. So okay, after a very long successful NHL career, in fact you retired as the oldest player, over 1,500 games in and as a sports, those are all incredible things. First year off, tell us about what you guys have been up to your first year of retirement.
Well,
you've been busy.
I'll go. Yeah. So I ended up, so I do work still with the Penguins from home. Sure. So I spend probably out of each month, I spend 3 weeks at home, and then I go out to Pittsburgh for about a week. And just to try to kind of learn the other side of the game, whether it be the management or coaching side. When I retired, the general manager asked if I have interest in trying that. And so basically it's a, kind of a trial phase to see if it's something that would interest me, and work for our family. So I'm doing that. And then, the other 3 weeks I'm home with, I coached my oldest son's hockey team this year. And then I helped out with the other two. They were on the same team. So I helped out with their team too. And I'm also the rink manager in the backyard of our backyard rink. And that's probably my most full-time job of all of them. I'm out there a lot. But anyways, that's so it keeps me awfully busy. And then Bridget's had a really busy year. Lots going on too.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about Bridget.
Oh. I feel like it's kind of all a blur, but so the two younger two are on the same team, luckily. So every weekend I was with those two because he coached Brooks. But so that was kind of fun just because like they're just so into hockey. So every weekend we just would pack up, go together, and it was a really good group of parents too, both groups. Mm-hmm. So it just made it kind of extra nice. And then just working, I started a little company and just working to get that up and going and trying to manage, the working and the kids and all of it. So kind of trying to find a new normal.
So what's your highlight of being in your hometown this year?
I think, well, for me, just everywhere we go, I know somebody, like the post office, the grocery store, going for a walk. And I couldn't ever say that in any other city we lived in. I didn't know very many people, but just seeing a familiar face, every day I love that.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Matt?
Yeah, it's been nice just being home. I think, we've moved around a lot, and this has always been home. We come home in the summer. It's just really been nice being home, and I think having our whole family together on a regular basis. When I played, I was gone a lot, traveling half of the year. And even when I was home, it was practice, and then it's always about taking care of your body and taking care of make sure you get sleep and food. And so Bridgie ends up doing most of the work with the kids. So I think this year the thing I enjoyed the most was just being home. Like we had Sundays and Monday nights together as a family all the time, and Wednesday nights. So 3 nights of the week we knew as a family we were having supper together and we were going to hang out and be together. And those are just things that I never, and I never got to do, but also our boys never got to really enjoy having both parents home all the time. Mm-hmm. Being able to share duties on kids hockey and make supper together, make breakfast most mornings for the boys. Like just the little things that probably most people take for granted. I think those are the things that I enjoyed the most, just being able to be around for those.
Yeah. When I hear you talk about that, I think that it's easy when you're on a spectator standpoint and watching people succeed at a sport or at different areas of life. It can look so glamorous, and it is. I'm sure there's lots of positives to it, but there is that sacrificial standpoint. And knowing both of you, your commitment to your family, to each other, to your boys, that is sacrificial. And so it's great to see that you have this season, this opportunity. Now, Matt, you were sharing with me, Brooks had a great season. The team had a great season, but you experienced together what many people experienced during these uncertain times. You were gearing up for a state tournament, and all of a sudden, tell me what happened.
Yeah, so I coached his Pee Wee team, so it's 12, 13-year-old boys. let's see, 7th and 6th grade. And so we had a great season. It was a lot of fun. It was a really nice group of kids, good group of parents. We had just a fun year, and we had a really good team, and everything was great. We were down actually in St. Michael, Albertville for the state tournament. And, we knew that it was a question that whether or not the tournament was going to happen, but we were actually it was a Friday morning. We were on the ice practicing, getting excited we had a game that night. And so we got the call right at the end of practice that the tournament had been canceled. And so the Pee Wee and Bantam, so kids from 12 and 13, and then also the Bantams are 14 and 15-year-old kids. Yeah. Their state tournament got canceled too. So we had to deliver the heartbreaking news to those boys, right. So that was a pretty sad deal. I mean, we weren't the only ones, so I'm not feeling sorry for just us, but it was a really like a real moment there, just having to tell the kids, that the season was over and it was all done. And, the kids put a lot into it, and it's Pee Wee hockey, it's youth hockey, but it's also the most important thing going on in their life at that time, probably. So, and you ask them to commit, and you're teaching them about committing to something and working hard and putting everything into it. And then you have to say, it's all done. So it was really sad. I was disappointed for the boys, and, it kind of broke their hearts, but sure. We've regrouped, and, it's another lesson for kids to learn, and it's not an easy one, but it was one of those experiences. It's kind of stuck with me for a while. It was disappointing. I was pretty sad for those kids.
Yeah. I think that's something that for us as adults, it's easy to think of, and what's going on, the people dying, getting sick. I mean, of course, that's tragic, and that's at a very deep level. But for each one of us at every season of life, as you mentioned, we all have things that are very important to us, and our whole routine and culture has been disrupted. And I think sometimes, not just for us as adults, but for our kids and the whole process, and what your son probably felt emotionally is as deep as what us as adults feel, when we have a significant loss or a disappointment. And I think that's important for us as parents to not try to just talk about all this stuff that's going on big picture, which is important, but the disappointments of our kids. And I think of even just all those high school kids around the country who have major things going on in the spring, all the seniors, those are real things to real people. And so how did you help Brooks process the disappointment? What were things you said that you felt like helped him?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we talked a lot about just the fact that a lot of things are out of your control in your life. And, that's one thing I talk to the kids a lot about, is controlling what you can control. And that's kind of been, for us as a family, that's almost been a mantra in a way, because, there's so many things in the life of a professional athlete that you can't control, your coaches, your team, if you have to move, if the salary cap doesn't fit and you have to move as a family, there's just a lot of things that come your way in life that you have to deal with that are fully out of your control. And so I think that was the one message that I shared with the boys, is it's not always going to be fair, and it's not always going to make sense. And it's often going to be out of your control, but what can you do with it? You got to appreciate the experiences you had and make the most of it going forward, and just be proud of what you've done to this point. And I think that was the biggest message I shared with them. But it's just something that I guess through my experiences in hockey and through our experiences as a family that we've learned is there's just so many things you can't control, and so you do what you can with what you can control, and the rest is in God's hands.
Yeah. I think that principle, I don't know how well I've learned it yet. I just know I know it better than I knew it 10 years ago. And it seems like the better you can embrace and grasp that, the more peaceful your life is. Because otherwise you wrap your hand around things and trying to control them. And that's where the anxiety comes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think change too, it took us probably, 10, 11 years to actually embrace change and know that we're supposed to be listening to God, and we're supposed to be going to New York or Carolina or all these places. And once we both realize that we're going to make the best out of every opportunity we get, everything just kind of became so much easier. We were just, I don't know, when these things happen, when this happened, we kind of just adjusted like we would adjust in moving. We just, okay, well, this is what it is. Let's make the most of it. Let's have fun. It's just like a mindset.
Yeah.
So many people don't want to change. They've never moved before. They don't want to make new friends. They don't want to go out and see the world. And it's well, that's what you have to do. You have to adapt. And
so,
that's good. No, and that's the biggest thing that I think is like, and that's, and not that we're, mind you, never perfect at it. I mean, I was telling Bridget, I woke up in the middle of the night last night thinking about the kids' hockey, and I couldn't fall asleep. Like, we all have our things. Like,
That's
I
a
mean,
good
it's
dad
just,
right there. Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, so we don't have it nailed down by any means, but but I just think that that's like one of those lessons that we've learned, and maybe the hard way. Like, we didn't have it all figured out at the beginning. We lived and died with a lot of decisions that were out of our hands. But I think that's the biggest thing we learned, is that you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond to it and how you view it. And so we've tried to really hammer that into the boys, because I think, honestly, if you can learn that lesson, it really equips you to handle just about anything you come across, Yeah.
So your daily routine, obviously everybody's routine's been changed. What are you doing at home that you feel like is working that maybe others could do?
Well, I think this is we got away from it in the winter, but every morning we read the Bible with the boys, and they love it. Like, it's our quiet time. This is before, usually before they eat, before school, before any activity, and just kind of get that in us and grounded. And right now, as a family, we're working on, last week we saw a message about deciding what stakes you're going to put in the ground as a family.
Right.
And we picked 5 of those for all of us to live by, and how we're going to treat each other and how we're going to live. And so that was,
well, tell us about the 5 stakes. That sounds
5 stakes.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, where's my notebook?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, mine was an easy one, but it was like, I just want our family to live in truth. Like, we sit at the dinner table. If I ask you a question, like, you don't need to lie. Like, this is our family. Like, let's just be honest and loving and truthful. So that was mine. Brooks had one. He said he wants our family to think before we speak, which I thut was
well, that'd be nice.
Partly because,
all of us.
Yeah.
But just a good stake.
Yeah.
What was yours?
Mine was being humble and respectful.
Oh, being humble and respectful.
Yeah.
What was Wyatt's? Wyatt's was put God first.
Yeah, put God first in everything you do.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know.
Joey's was stand up for what's right. Don't be afraid to make a difference. That was Joey's.
Wow.
So those are the 5.
Yeah.
So I mean, we'll see. We're only 3 days
starting
in. So.
After Easter. No, just
well, we need the resurrection to be able to do it. That's for sure.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
Not there. Yeah, we're not there yet.
We're not.
But it's good. That's been the best part, probably. Like, the school has been good, but it's always a challenge. Like, every day it's a wrestling match with the kids, which I'm sure everybody can relate to, because I've heard lots of stories from friends that are whatever. It's just new. It's new for everybody, and but that's probably been the best thing, is just being able to slow it down. And our life had been getting awfully busy here just last year, and so this little slowdown for us as a family just has actually been pretty good. Like, we've had some time to sit down and do some of those things that we wanted to do, like get on a track on the Bible with the boys, and just have some time to talk about some things that we just whatever our schedule is, and we've allowed it to get busier than we probably should have. And so it's been nice to have that time to do that.
Right. Well, that's I think is an encouragement, and hopefully other families can, because I think for all of us, you're right. You have your kids at home. We've homeschooled all of our kids, but even doing that for 20 plus years, it's still daily refereeing. Let's be honest about it. It's people, it's human beings who don't want to do all the things you're asking them to do. And so that's why they have parents, but it's, they haven't yet woken up a day where they've said, Mom, Dad, we're going to do all of our math, all of our science. We're going to do everything. You're not going to have to help or pay attention or referee at all. So, so I think for families to understand, realistically, children have parents because they need them. And now you just see why they need them each day to keep them on track and moving forward. So, Matt, this year, I saw at the end of the year, you were named Person of the Year by the forum. Tell us a little bit about what that means to you, but also, and this might be a difficult question that you might have to jump in with, Bridget, why was Matt named Person of the Year?
Well, I can tell you that, but I mean, I'm a pretty, it's really a cool honor, first of all, but the biggest thing is that I'm a pretty quiet private guy, and Bridgie's the one that really drives the bus on all that as far as getting us out and
Being
trying
loud.
to make a difference. And
You know,
well, she's a little bit of a talker. You may have been called a talker. I mean, you know, that's your gift. I don't know your gifts, but she's really a social person, and you know, so it works pretty well because like I'm pulling to stay at home and she's pulling to let's get out and make a difference and do something special. And so she runs the foundation and she's the one that drives it, you know, and we have some awesome people that help truthfully. And it's not just a cliche deal, but like we have a really fun, awesome group of people, and Bridgie kind of is the heart and soul of it all and drives it. And, you know, through hockey, I have, you know, the platform and the face, but she's the one that kind of makes everything happen. So, you know, there's times when I get frustrated because I'm not always comfortable with doing everything that we're doing because, you know, whatever. It's just, I'm a pretty quiet, private person, but Bridgie's the one that makes it happen. So I guess that would be the biggest thing I take out of that is that it's pretty special having Bridge, who's, you know, not only taking care of the kids at home and doing all that, but is out looking to help other people all the time.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Oh, well,
That's the truth.
That was nice.
well, yeah, and so now, if I'm reading right, your foundation has raised over $5 million to help children. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
What a legacy! What a testimony to using your life well and continuing to do so. In fact, you don't remember, Matt, but I met you at one of your golf tournaments.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I don't know that, but I was invited to play by someone who was sponsoring it, and I think maybe it's your last golf tournament. Was it a couple years ago? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. That would have been
that was a long time ago.
Well, 2014, right?
6 years ago.
15.
Yeah. No, I think it might have been, and of course that was when I still have the Nike pullover, and but it was. What I appreciate about it, again, the accessibility, but also the emphasis, and now getting to know you personally, I can see this is really part of what you're about, and the influence you're having in that arena of life. What a great thing that you're doing, and so I affirm the choice of the forum for picking you as Person of the Year. So Bridget, now this is the part that I thought was interesting, and I might need clarity. Now, before you and Matt were together, you finished college. And then you went on to your master's degree. Is that right? And what did you get your master's degree in?
So my master's is in educational leadership, but it's human service administration.
Yeah.
So running a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Which isn't
that beautiful?
Yeah.
How God can design things like that?
Crazy. I was like on a fast track to coach basketball, and all of a sudden, quick left turn, and I'm like in this program and just not knowing why I'm doing this. Right. And then it all became clear later.
Isn't it beautiful? Again, that's so often the case as we follow the Lord. We can look in the rearview mirror and we can say, God, you knew exactly what you're doing. And we can always be encouraged. I think the challenge we face is when we live in the now, we have to trust him again over and over in those arenas. So tell us a little bit about your journey of coming to know Christ and the influence and the emphasis in your life over the last 20 years. That's a big question.
Yeah. I'm like, where do we start?
Break it up. Yeah, however you want to.
Well, I think personally it changed in us. He got traded. We went to church. We went to Catholic church every week. When I was out in Anaheim with you, we were probably 23-ish age, but then he got like his first trade, and that was just really eye-opening because I think you always think you're going to stay in one city for a long time, and so you had to look at yourself too and just be like, okay, this is real. So we went from Anaheim to Florida, and when we were in Florida, there's just like certain people that came into our life now looking back that they made our faith, like they sparked our faith. Like we were asking questions and like, what does God think about this? And then the only place to do is like look in the Bible. So we would open up the Bible, and I think Florida before we got married was when we really we just were all in. We just we dove in and just, I don't know, we found a really good church down there, and that helped, and some good friends, and and I think every year we started our foundation, and then we had children, and just everything just kind of evolved and progressed
Right.
in a good way, not kind of going down the wrong path. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think we both grew up in pretty faith-filled homes. Like we both went to the same church, and
right.
you know, like I think we kind of, she went to college, I went to play in California, and I think the best thing I know from my faith was when we came back together. Bridgie just is so strong in her faith and just so confident and trusting in it. You know, and I had moments, you know, like I was a young guy trying to fit in on an NHL team of
Right.
30-plus-year-old guys, and the culture was, you know, it's just the hockey culture. And so there was a lot of challenges for me as a young guy trying to fit in. And
Like what?
Can't think of any at the moment, but
We'll fill in the blank there, won't we?
I'm drawing a blank. Lots of concussions, you know.
Put him right on the spot.
yeah. But anyway, so yeah, you know, when we got back together, and I guess that was probably the biggest thing for me, just having Bridget back in my life, and just kind of having sort of your true north to help lead you the right way to where you need to go. And I think together then we ended up helping each other and pushing each other a lot. And I think that, you know, now throughout our marriage here has been the case. Is just been a push-pull relationship that we each kind of, you know, will motivate the other one or try to push in times when the other one needs a boost. And yeah, so I think really we've grown together, and we've come across some really awesome people throughout our career that have helped steer us and maybe just keep us pushing to become stronger in it. I think, and that's, you know, and then the other side of it is just all the different adversities you face with on the ice, off the ice, moving, dealing with raising a family, moving around, things like that really, you know, force you to be strong in what you're doing and know what you believe in. So that's been good for us.
I mean, it's not an easy life at all. And I think a lot of the wives know it. You're lonely a lot of the time. Like you're doing everything the same every night with the kids, and it took us a little while to figure this out too. But I always told him, I'm like, I'm gonna miss these nights with just me and the boys,
right?
Because it's like they can only rely on me, and I like that feeling. But then it was like, but they're missing out on him, and so now they have him, and it's kind of. It's just different. It's like I'm not lonely anymore, but I'm also kind of thankful that he's around more.
Right.
So now we can grow together as a family instead of me trying to teach the boys certain things or me taking the boys to church every Sunday.
Right.
It would just be, or like spring breaks, it would just be me and the boys. And so it was fine. It was great. And we were so blessed, but now it's more special to have him around.
So tell me about your marriage a little bit. I've heard you talk about it some, Matt. What's your favorite qualities that Bridget has?
My looks.
Wow.
Well, besides her looks, of course. That's always, you know.
That was the first thing I was going to say. Oh, man. I don't know. I think, the biggest thing with Bridge, and people that know her would attest to this, is that she's the most genuine person that you'll ever come across. Like, what you see is what you get, and you're never going to be in any doubt as to what she thinks about something or where she stands. Yeah. You know, and I absolutely just fell in love with that from the beginning. She loved to wear sweatpants to high school. I love that. But since we were young, like, it just was a great fit. Our personalities fit. But you just, you know, she's just, I think genuine is the biggest thing that comes to mind. She's so genuine and honest, and she makes me a better person being around her. Yeah. And I know that, you know, for our boys, there's nobody I'd rather have for a mom to our kids. So it's been fun to see that side of her. You know, I fell in love with her in high school, but it's been fun to see her become the mom that she is too, as well as the wife. And she's pretty special. She's pretty unique.
Well, beautiful.
I run a tight ship.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
Well, he's like, whoa, that's a little strong. I'm like, nope. I'm like, they're boys. They need this. They need it. Tough love.
Yeah.
You're right, Bridget. You know, I've got 5 boys, and while those boys need a strong arm, not always a warm hand, but a good hand to keep them in the right direction.
Yeah. And just truthful, you know, like,
exactly.
I'm not going to tell them they're good at everything because they're not. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah. Yeah. No, it sounds like we're on the same pages. So, Bridget, I know Matt got the better end of the deal, but what's at least one thing you like about him?
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
There's not much.
I think so. I think the biggest thing is he's so like humble, and we always say that word a lot, but like he's so kind, but he doesn't have an ego. I mean, at all. And we've been reading a lot of books about this stuff, but he just doesn't. And he's always been able to just like keep ultra focused on what he needs to do, but at the same time, like he doesn't ever forget where he came from. You know, he's just, I don't know, like the perfect human.
Well, I don't have a choice. Can you imagine if I had an ego with Rich? Like there's like, it's no choice. I could try, but
you could try,
I could squash
you'd get shot down.
It's not going to happen.
No, but he's pretty perfect.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's beautiful to hear. What's something you do in your marriage that keeps your relationship growing? I think as you were describing, Bridget, what a transition from kind of living together but having very different responsibilities to now you're under one roof, seeing each other. And I think that's really what lots of homes are experiencing now. You know, they're spending a lot more time with their loved ones. I don't know if everybody's having a good experience with it, but what's a two that you could give that now that you're together more often, you're seeing Matt, you know, morning, noon, and night. You're seeing your two boys now. So what's something you guys are doing that you're making the most of the time instead of letting those little imperfections or irritations get under your skin?
Well, I just think the quality time. We've been watching a lot of like kind of spiritual movies, like movies about kids that have handicaps and things that make the kids say, like, you know, not just fluff time, you know, like just making the most of kind of, if we're going to watch a movie, it's going to be one that's going to maybe teach you something or, and then our meal time, you know, the kids, they probably got off easy during hockey season, but now they're all help cutting and doing the dishes. And just, we're all together in the kitchen for probably a couple hours, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
I mean,
But I also think there's two major understandings that have happened that are making this work okay, is that I know Bridgie's not going to get up to do breakfast, so I do the breakfast. I don't even fight on that. And she knows that I can't fix anything in the house, so she doesn't even ask me to fix it. We don't even deal with it. So there's two major landmines that we just kind of have like delegated elsewhere, and so that's probably a big part of it too. The rest of the day goes pretty smooth.
It is. Yeah, it's actually been going well. One day we had a bad day.
Tell us about the bad day.
Well, we were both going to work out, and he was going to ride the bike, and I was going to run on the treadmill. And I was just like, I don't know. I was annoyed. I'm like, I just want to go on the treadmill and run for a few miles and just tune everything out. So we have a little gym on the side of the house, and I get in there, and he's got his like music going, and I'm like, I can't run to this. So I get on the treadmill and I put my little earbuds in, and then his music was overpowering. I couldn't even hear mine in my ear. So I whipped my ear off, and I'm like, can you put your earbuds in? And then he goes, yeah. He's like, I can, if you go get them for me.
Nice guy. Yeah.
So I go off the treadmill, run and find his earbuds, and then just stick them in his ears so he can.
But I was like, I'm halfway done. You can't get off the bike halfway through.
Oh my gosh. I was so annoyed. I don't know why. So dumb, but
no, there's always moments. There's been plenty of moments, but
no, I think that we all know those experiences, and I think what I heard you say that I think is such a key to all of our relationships is we're going to be living with imperfect people, and they don't have strengths in every area. How do we deal with those? Do we learn to compensate and compromise and come to an agreement? I'm like you, Matt. I'm not going to fix a whole lot around the house. If I do fix it or try to fix it, I'm creating more problems. so we have to find another solution
Yeah,
there. And
exactly.
and the same thing with my wife. It's more, we've learned to cover over and then enjoy the strengths. And I think if couples can do that, to recognize whoever we live with is going to have some things that are less than perfect. Let's just acknowledge that, but let's enjoy the things that we can enjoy. And it sounds like both of you are doing a marvelous job at that. You know, Matt, I saw a verse that you had in one of your articles, Luke 12:48. For everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded, and for those who have been entrusted with much, much will be asked. Both of you, I think, would easily acknowledge you've been given a lot. God has been really gracious to both of you. What that verse, how does that kind of encourage you, create some soberness to really the rest of your life in light of what you've been given?
Yeah, I think it's I think more than anything, it's what motivates us to get out and try to do more and make an impact with what we've been given. I think that's probably the biggest thing that verse does for us. I think,
Yeah.
you know, it's a reality, and we're appreciative of everything we have, and we know it's not by what we've done. But I think that's the biggest thing, is that it just keeps us in the frame of mind that we feel like we should try to do as much as we can with what we've been given. And so that's, I guess, the biggest thing that has been motivating us throughout our time together.
Yeah, just looking for ways where we can always help, or people that need it, or even a neighbor, or just always looking for ways to be kind and generous. And that's what we're trying. Well, I'm trying to teach the boys this, so it's that's my mission.
Right. So how are you at this time in listening to both of you share? Jesus is your priority. And through the devotions, different things, what do you want your boys to say as they become young adults? What do you want them to say are the most important priorities of their life?
I think kindness and love, just, you know, just being respectful to each other and loving. I think that's kind of the biggest.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, we think about and we talk about is we hope that we can equip them with enough of a base in their faith that when they hit hard times, that's where they turn. Because there comes a time here soon where they're out of the house, and it's you hope that will help them handle the challenges that they're going to face. I mean, the world is kind of a scary place. I mean, when they go to college, you don't know what they're going to be exposed to. And so you just hope that you can do a good job while you have them. And I think it kind of creates a sense of urgency as parents to make sure that you spend the time and help them find the right standards and morals, that so when they are faced with some of these decisions and choices and problems and challenges and everything that comes their way, that they have something to lean on, something to guide them. And so that's where I think we feel, and we talk about that, that's our job here, is to make sure that, you know, we help equip them to make their own decisions, but that we help give them some goalposts to guide them. Right.
Well, I think as I think you shared with me, Matt, about the importance, and you referenced it too, is having your kids get into the Word of God, get the truth in them. Kind of the way that I described it with my kids. Daily Bible reading was a big deal, because here's the perspective that I've had is, you know what, they're going to leave home. Excuse me. What can we give them so that when we're not there, they have a reference to make good decisions? And that's where the spiritual aspect, the relationship with Christ, the Word of God, all those things. So some other ways that you're trying to put those into the hearts of your kids.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a big part right there. And just, I think trying to make time, and I'm not a big fan. I think the word intentional gets maybe overused or whatever, but just trying to, you know, make that time and actually, you know, instead of brushing through scenarios and situations that happen in their life, talk to them about decision-making processes. And we don't necessarily do a great job of it. It's something we talk about and try at. You know, we're all getting better or trying to get better at what we do, and that includes our parenting. But, you know, we try to call attention to different things that might help guide them when they're faced with different things. I mean, you don't know what they're going to come across in their life. And,
Right.
I just think that I agree. The Bible reading, like seeing the kids read the Bible and interpret it for themselves instead of taking our word for it, but to read it for themselves. And then just to try to create situations where they maybe ask you a question, or maybe they want to learn, okay, what's going on here? What's right? What's wrong? Having those conversations, I think are important.
Mm-hmm. And just spending time with them, because they're so individual. Like, I don't want to look back and just think, 2 out of 3 isn't bad.
I think I know who you have in mind too. That's funny.
Every parent understands that we can't talk about it.
Yeah, like nobody talks about it, but I'm like, I got one that might be a suspect here. But just spending extra time with him, and he's so funny. He's such a funny kid. But it's like, sometimes you put that over your values, and he gets away with stuff. So it's like, if I can spend more time with him and try to just hone him in a little, maybe he'll remember that someday.
Yeah.
I don't know.
but I think too, and we talk about this, and I think every parent now doing homeschool can relate to this, that the kids probably don't listen to us as much as we'd want, right? No matter what the situation is, and we're all seeing it. But I think that the kids watch what you do all the time. And I think being the example and the things that you do every day, the way you treat each other, the way that you go about handling problems in the house, or different situations that come up in life, they're watching that probably more than they're listening to you tell them how to handle things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we all, a lot of times there's a discrepancy between what we're telling them to do and then how we handle situations. So they see that probably more than what you're telling them, I believe. And so that's one thing that, I think we try to call each other out on.
That's one thing you're good at.
Yeah.
Really good at.
Not often, but I think that's probably the most important thing, is the way that you conduct yourself and handle yourself and deal with other people and treat other people probably is maybe more important than what you say about it.
Yeah. Like what that saying, do as I do and not as I say, it should be the opposite.
Right.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Oh wait, yeah.
Well, you are a little bit blonde, Bridget, but we weren't going to talk about that.
Never mind.
I think that is interesting. Amy and I were having a conversation the other night, and I was not having one of my best parenting moments, and we've seen really good fruit with our kids as they've gotten older. And I kind of describe it this way: I've given my kids lots of reasons to not follow the Lord, lots of reasons to not like their dad. But for the most part, I've owned up to it. I've told them, hey, I stink. I fall short. Please forgive me. There's only one Savior. Dad isn't it. I'm trying. I want to be better. And then, of course, you have areas you do well in. And I think just that aspect of helping our kids understand that we're honest about how we live. We love Jesus Christ. We want to honor him. We want to love the people in our lives. When we don't do it well, we need to just own up to that. And that really invites our kids into a deeper relationship with us, because they're not expecting us to be perfect. They would like us to own up to our shortcomings, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.